Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Welcome to the 7th episode of And the EGOT Goes To, a breakdown and predictions podcast for the major US-based award shows. Today, we continue our first season with a 9-episode miniseries on the 2023 Tony Awards. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is our panel.
Hello, I'm Kate Ranking. I am a Theater is Life on TikTok and YouTube, and I love seeing theater.
Hi, I'm Ashley Hufford. I'm Ashley Hufford on Instagram and TikTok. And I also love seeing theater.
Hi, I am J.T. Tranberg, and I also love seeing theater. I am JT Does NYC on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the socials.
Today, we are going to start by discussing the design and direction of a musical categories. Today's categories include lighting design of a musical, scenic design of a musical, sound design of a musical, costume design of a musical, and direction of a musical. We're also discussing 2 honorary awards, the Excellence in Theater Education Award and the Regional Theater Award. Let's get started by talking about the Regional Theater Award. This year, the Regional Theater Award goes to the Pasadena Playhouse in California. Ashley, you said you wanted to talk about that.
I went to the Pasadena Playhouse this year for the first time. I went, they're doing a Sondheim, a celebration to Sondheim series for this year. And so they're doing a ton of different Sondheim content, and they did Sunday in the Park with George when I was there in March. And it's such a beautiful theater, like the entire campus, and there's multiple spaces. They have an incredible patio space. And I just think it's amazing. And I really, really love it. And then the other day I was talking to my landlord. I rent from a family friend, and the owner of the building is in her 90s. And she's from Pasadena. And so I was like, oh, I went to Pasadena, and I was talking about it. And she's like, oh, I used to go to Pasadena Playhouse all the time with my husband. Like when we first started dating, she's like, and we go to all these plays because there was so much going on there. And she's like, and we were just talking about the Pasadena Playhouse. And again, like she's 90, and it was just really cool. And I was explaining to her that it was getting a Tony Award. And she was like, and I don't think she really cared, but I was like, it's really cool. But I just think it's such a cool theater, and I'm really glad it's being rewarded. And I think getting it during this year, this like Sondheim year that they're doing, they just did a little night music. Ellery Ward was there. Right now, Bernadette Peters was there. I just got an email from them yesterday, which I was mad about because it was like, do you want to see Bernadette Peters? And I was like, yes, I would. Why are you in California? But I think it's great that we're rewarding Pasadena. And I'm honestly shocked it hasn't already gone. Only because I feel like it's been a theater that has been around for so long and that we've heard so much about for like so many years. And yeah, Pasadena is stunning. So if you're in the LA area, highly recommend going to the Pasadena Playhouse.
I absolutely love Pasadena Playhouse. But I'm from LA halfway. So divorced parents. I'm from LA, and so Pasadena Playhouse is like one of the theaters that I would go to as a kid. And they did a production of Do I Hear a Waltz back in the 90s, like 99, 2000. They got a cast recording that you can listen to, and it's fantastic. But they do a lot of like offbeat musicals. They also did my favorite production of Little Shop with MJ Rodriguez and George Salazar. That should have gotten a cast recording if it weren't for the East Coast production. I'm still mad about it. But they also did the 90-minute immersive Head Over Heels production a couple years ago, which essentially did the layout that Here Lies Love is doing now. So I feel like they have been the forefront of all of these really innovative regional theater productions for years. And the fact that they're just now getting their due shocks me to no end. I feel like they already should have gotten a Tony, especially considering all the other regional theaters in LA that have already gotten one. Yeah, it's time. They're just fantastic.
Yeah, so with this award, also, they get a $25,000 grant
Ooh.
to assist them in their theater making needs. JT?
I have never been to the Pasadena Playhouse. I've never been to Los Angeles. I've never been to California. I've never been to
You gotta go.
West Coast. But I have been saying for like 3 years now, when I go to LA for the first time, I will be going to see a show at the Pasadena Playhouse. I don't care what it is, but I will be going there because I've heard so many great things about the Pasadena Playhouse. And I can't wait to go. And now they have a Tony Award. So I'm going to be visiting a Tony winning theater. And it's going to be fantastic.
No, JT, literally, that's how, like, when we took the trip to LA specifically to go see Secret Garden and The Outsiders. And I was like, oh, I wonder what else is playing. And I just happened to look up Pasadena Playhouse because I'd never been and I wanted to go. And it was Sunday in the Park with George. And I was like, with with two of my favorite performers. So I like lost my mind. I was very, very excited. And so it just very much worked out to go. And so anything they do there, I think is probably going to be great. I'm really sad I missed that Head Over Heels because that production looked crazy. And especially because when you look at that theater, like it's so much a traditional theater setup. I was like, how did they even do this production? Because it like is a proscenium theater and it's like a normal theater. So it's pretty cool what they were able to like.
They did exactly what Head Over
Right, and that's
Love is doing
really
now.
fun that they just decided to make a big swing like that. Like I feel like you don't get that in a lot of regional theaters, and that's really cool that they were like, you know what, we're just gonna go for it.
I love that.
I think they've also been kind of at the forefront of doing diverse productions for long before the pandemic, which I think is, worth pointing out, because I feel like a lot of theaters decided during the pandemic that they needed to add diversity to their lineup. And that is something that Pasadena Playhouse has been doing for years. The Little Shop of Horror production was before the pandemic, but they also were doing stuff like partnering with East West Players and doing specifically Asian playwrights and doing, one of those every few years. So I think it's something that they have valued, and I'm glad to see them recognized.
And then our second honorary award is the Tony Award for Excellence in Theater Education, which this year is being presented to Jason Zembuk Young of South Plantation High School in Plantation, Florida. Zembuk Young runs a one-person, zero-budget public school theater department with upwards of 150 students participating in performances. He also operates a 6-week summer stock theater camp for elementary and middle school students, using high school drama students as counselors and mentors. With his South Plantation School students, he participates in international thespian district and state competitions and is an 8-time South Florida Cappy winner for Best Play or Musical. He also fundraises annually to provide 4 $1,000 scholarships to help graduating seniors. Helping others overcome disability or life circumstances doesn't stop while the school bell rings for Zembuk Young. He and his husband, Michael, have fostered more than 35 abused and underprivileged children. He's facilitated the adoption of foster kids in his care and become an adoptive parent himself. He offers free admission to all performances for foster families so they can experience live theater.
Well, this person sounds like a hero. So I'm really glad they're being rewarded.
Coming from a Floridian theater kid, I can say that Florida high school theater is different than any other high school theater in my experience and from what I've heard from people, just because we're like the kids that are the ones that our state hates. I'll put it that way, for lack of a better term. And so like theater kids, especially theater kids in Florida, have like a lot of gumption and a lot of guts, and having a teacher or an educator or developer that is guiding you and being that rock for you is super important. And it sounds like this guy is doing that. And so I commend him and appreciate him for that work.
That's amazing. I also hope he really they were able to get a bunch of big Broadway people donating to his program. Like I feel like getting the Tony Award, he can now be like, don't help me fundraise this, and they'll be like, oh, last year we had $4,000 scholarships. This year it's $10,000 scholarship, or something like that. I mean, it's so, especially, I mean, on top of I don't know how political we want to get in this podcast, but to be gay in Florida and to be openly queer and openly running a theater program, it's very brave, especially right now with everything that's happening down there.
Making theater accessible for all audiences has been the hallmark of Zembuk Young's 20 years as a drama teacher. Each year, he produces 2 full-length main stage productions, a play and a musical, in both voice and American Sign Language. As an advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing population, he has reshaped policies to provide interpreters during and after school to teach his hearing and deaf and hard of hearing actors and crew how to communicate and perform.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I am here. He's like a superhuman. I love it.
Yeah, this guy sounds amazing.
And so with this award comes a $10,000 grant for his theater program and tickets to the Tony Awards and Gala. His students will receive a visiting masterclass taught by Carnegie Mellon University drama professors.
I thought his students were also going to the
Yes.
Tony Awards. I was like, dang. That's
Wait, sorry,
awesome.
I'm just Googling him now because I'm curious. He did a West Side Story production with a deaf Maria, and the rest of the cast was hearing. That's
brilliant.
incredible.
That's so cool.
Like, this doesn't even sound like a good
And-
guy. Like, he sounds like he's doing some really cool, innovative theater.
Right, like really cool theater. I hope he gets to talk to Michael Arden. Like, I feel like him and Michael Arden would probably have like a really cool conversation about like making deaf and hearing
Yeah.
theater.
And whoever was at Olney.
Yes, that too. The Music Man.
But yeah, so again, this award every year is given out to a theater educator that has made an impact on their students. And I think that that is an understatement for what this guy has done.
I know, I'm like $10,000 is not
Right?
like enough. I'm like, give him more money.
25
No,
too.
Yeah, give him money and the school money.
That's
Right.
amazing.
Literally. Yeah, give him personally money. He probably makes like $10.
Right?
Teach him
Oh my gosh.
So now let's dive in to our competitive awards for this episode. So we're talking about design of a musical and direction of a musical. We will start with lighting design of a musical. There are 6 nominees for this award. We have Ken Billington for New York, New York, Lap Chai Chu for Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, Heather Gilbert for Parade, Howard Hudson for Anne Juliet, Natasha Katz for both Some Like It Hot and Sweeney Todd.
Much as I love Natasha Katz and I'd love for her to win for either of those nominations, I feel like this is New York's Tony to like. The problem with not the problem. I really like New York, but the issue is it's so good and the lighting is so incredible and the scenic design is so incredible that it's just like not even a competition. Like there's a scene in New York, spoiler if you haven't seen it.
Sort of.
With these where it rains and it has these like this rain. They put this like scrim down, this like see-through, and they project the rain onto this scrim, and then behind it, they do all these scenes where like the umbrellas are flying across the stage, and people are like, and it's like I literally can't stop thinking about it, and I thought it's just so beautiful. And I saw it, I was like, oh, this is winning lighting. Like it's one of the most stunning effects that I've seen. It's almost prettier than what I've seen actual rain being used. Like it's so pretty. I just can't, I don't know. I don't see a world in which it's not the winner of this award. Personally.
New York does 2 things well, and one of them is the lighting design.
Yeah, from even I haven't seen New York, but out of these shows that I have seen and from talking to folks, I definitely feel like this is gonna be New York's. I would like for Some Like It Hot to win because I just really enjoyed the lighting in that show and the scenic design. But I feel like it definitely is gonna go to New York.
Yeah, for me, like Sweeney is probably the second option for me. I mean, I like Some Like It Hot too, but I think the lighting in Sweeney is really beautiful. And the way that she like plays with the lighting, especially when you're like dealing with like the set is like pretty stark. It's like there's not a ton of set there, and they're really able to like create very defined spaces like with the lighting where you always kind of know like when you're in the basement, when you're in the oven, when you're in the whatever, like
Literally
you're
in the
aware
oven.
of in the oven. It is one of the things where I will say, like, my opinion, I don't think I've talked to you guys since I saw Sweeney from the orchestra. And like
Yeah, I think you have.
did I? Okay, I was like, my entire opinion on the show shifted after seeing it with Gina. And so I feel like, which it again is more of I think a problem with the theater than the actual production itself, where like when you're in that back of the mezzanine, you just cannot appreciate what the actors are doing, what the set is doing, what all of it is doing. And I think the scenic design, or the lighting in Sweeney is very beautiful. But at the same time, I think New York is going to take it.
So let's talk about costume design of a musical. There are also 6 nominees here. We have Greg Barnes for Some Like It Hot, Susan Hilferty for Parade, Jennifer Moeller for Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, Clint Ramos and Sophia Choi for K-pop, Paloma Young for Anne Juliet, and Donna Zakowska for New York, New York.
I would like to see K-pop win here. I think that the concert costumes are fantastic. The performance costumes, especially that like green, like that dark green and black ensemble are so good. And her like that first dress that she wears when we first meet her, like those are like my two favorite costumes. But I would love for K-pop to win here. But I think that Some Like It Hot or New York will win.
I think this is K-pop's best shot.
I do too.
I agree. I think the problem though is the fact that you don't have people. There are a lot of people who are going to be voting for this that have not seen K-pop, and I think that's the biggest problem here because of the rule that you can have not seen a show in a category, and obviously the other 5 shows are still open and K-pop is not.
But they can't see photos.
You're right. So I would like to hope that you would see a photo and be like, these costumes are very cool. I also agree that this is probably its best shot at a win here. And Juliet, I think we talked about this about plays, but like so many of these shows this year are like suit shows. So like New York is like, I mean, there's a little more than suits, but it's essentially suits. Some Like It Hot is suits. Again, other things too, but a lot of suits. Parade, suits. So it would be nice for like an Anne Juliet would be really fun. Like I think Anne Juliet, especially when it comes to their ensemble, have like such fun, crazy costumes. I think Some Like It Hot is probably the favorite here just from everything, but
I don't know.
I don't know either. I really don't. This could go so many different ways.
For me, it's between Anne Juliet and Camelot.
Ooh.
Like the costumes in Camelot are stunning. Even just the armor is really good.
Yes. I mean, I would like Camelot to win specifically for Philippa's red dress. Philippa's red dress is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Every single dress she came out with, I was like, one, where is the microphone?
Could not tell you.
I was like, and that I think alone is like, that's costume design, right?
Yes.
But just like everything that she wore, I was like, the craftsmanship on this is impeccable. Even just the lusty month of May dress with the flowers. But even again, just the armor for the men. And I think that men's costumes can be incredibly boring. And Camelot, K-pop, and Anne Juliet all had stunning men's costumes. Anne Juliet too, just the details on like Romeo's jacket. Like,
well, and I do think what's interesting about this season particularly, is I think we're gonna end up spreading the wealth on a lot more in terms of awards. I think it will be pretty evenly distributed. For the most part, like a lot of the shows, like I don't think Anne Juliet will get that much, but I think that they have a great shot here. You know, I think that there will be a lot more spreading the wealth in terms of the awards this year.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's going to be any sweeping this year.
Not at all.
I feel like because of, especially with all of the ties and a lot of the similarities between shows, lots of projections, lots of men's in suits, lots of the same subject matter as far as book goes. I feel like there is going to be no sweeping.
I mean, I think the only sweep that we'll have will be Life of Pi for design of a play. They'll get.
I don't even think that. I think it's getting 2 design awards, and that's it.
Well, yeah, that's 50%.
That's not a sweep.
Did you see, unrelated, I apologize for the interruption. Did you see Sonia is also the understudy for Pi? So now we have 2 female pies as understudies for Pi, and I'm like, I have to go see either Sonia or Uma. Like, that's so cool.
I can't go see Life of Pi again. Like,
I'm seeing one of them. I don't know when. Uma's going on tonight, but I can't go. I'm going to Beast and Honey, but I really would like to. I want to see it with female Pi. I think that's a really cool thing to do. That now they have, obviously they have Kareem, and then they have one male understudy and 2 female understudies. And Sonia's Pi's sister, like Jet in the show. Like that's her role in the show, but now she's also the other cover for Pi.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the costumes could go so many different directions. I would be happy with Camelot. I think that's a good. I don't know, because I also don't know if Camelot has any other chances.
I think this is it. I think this is it for Camelot.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a world in which we see a Camelot winning, but like in terms of the whole shebang. But I think probably this is its own.
So now we have sound design of a musical. There are 5 nominees. We have Kai Harada for New York, New York, John Shivers for Shuck, Scott Lair and Alex Newman for Into the Woods, Gareth Owen for Anne Juliet, and Nevin Steinberg for Sweeney Todd. I would like to speak about this one. I think this category is so interesting. I think Sondheim is incredibly hard to design for because you have the lyrics, the intricacies of that. Then you also have these incredible Jonathan Tunick orchestrations. And I think that this should go to Into the Woods. It is some of the best sound design I've ever heard. And to do it for a Sondheim show in as large of a theater as the St. James is, to be able to hear every word, every nuance from any seat in the house. I saw that show, I think 4 or 5 times when it was on Broadway in that house. I sat in a different section every time I saw that show, and you could hear it equally well in any of those sections. So I think I really hope that wins.
I agree. I could not agree more. I think especially with the size of that orchestra, like it's such a large orchestra, and yet you could hear Sarah Bareilles perfectly every single time. Like, I agree. Like, I think it's beautiful. Like, I always think about how when they do but I know this is an orchestration thing, but the sound of the beans, and it's like he's dropping the beans in, and then like, but you're able to just like it's so clear. I don't know. I was so impressed. I mean, I think it's also a cast recording I listen to a lot, and I think it's one of the best sounding cast recordings I've heard in the last 5 years. So yeah, I think that is, I mean, again, I think it does have the same issue of the fact that it's closed and the other ones are still open. That being said, I think enough people had seen it either there or on the road that it'll have a decent chance of winning.
Well, and I think enough people had commented on it at the time about it being such
incredibly sound designed.
Yeah. Also, to what you said with the beans, it's incredibly hard to mic an orchestra. Normally, it's even harder when they're on stage because you have to do it so there's not bleed. And the fact that you can hear those xylophone notes so incredibly clear every time is a testament to that sound design.
It even sounded decent at New York City Center, which is a notoriously terribly sounding theater. Was that all I say?
100%.
Yeah, I definitely was gonna say that I think that this is definitely Into the Woods category to win. For me, it is what you were speaking on with the Sondheim shows. Like when any baker's wife justifies the beans, and you can hear like every single bit of her voice without that violin like overshadowing her justify, is very spectacular to me. And every time that I saw this show, no matter who was playing the baker's wife, I could hear it, and it was fantastic. Something I listened for every time I watched this show, and it was fantastic. So that the giant echo, the sound of the boots clacking in Act 2, like everything was just all fantastic.
Yeah, and so I think, of course, I do think I love the sound design for Anne Juliet as well. Also, shout out to Gareth Owen, friend of the podcast network, friend of the network. But I think that this would be well deserved for Into
I was gonna say, I think for me it's between Into the Woods or Anne Juliet, and I can see if it ends up being the recency bias of Into the Woods was great, but we don't quite remember it because it was so long ago. then this will go to Aunt Juliet, and I will not be mad about it.
Yeah.
Because that's another one that has such a large range of like types of music and like a lot of effects and a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds super clear. Like it's beautiful. It sounds beautiful. And you're talking about a very diverse range of songs and instrument types and sound effects and computer
and there's
whatever.
so much dialogue in there over these like big pop songs. like when you have the exchange in is it Blow or Confident? I don't know, one of those two. But when they have, you know, all of these club scenes and you're doing dialogue in that and you can hear all of that, brilliant.
I haven't seen that since it opened. I need to go
You
revisit
need to
that
go
one.
back, because I just went back again and I was like, oh, here we go, it's settled. And it's very good.
Hey there, listeners. When the panel takes a quick intermission, I wanted to tell you about another Bloop Network podcast, Thrash and Treasure, where we torture the world's greatest artists with musicals, comedy, and heavy metal, even Tony Award winners. Here's a quick sneak peek with Tony Award winner Chris Gattelli.
Andy Warhol said that in the future, everybody will have their 15 minutes of fame. Now we can quote him on that, or we can blame him for putting the idea in our heads. And that's why we're in the mess we're in now. Because everyone thought, oh, well, Andy Warhol said it. It must come true. Well, I also should get $1 million. No, it's not happening, is it? Anyways.
Do people pull out their cell phones in rehearsal rooms like that you run?
Oh, that's another one. It depends on the level of, like, if, like, for example, I just did a workshop of a new project and they do, and for that I go, okay, they're not getting paid as much. They're not in it, you know, doing a run. But I have been known to put shoe holders on the doors of rehearsals, and people put their cell phones in before they come into rehearsal, for sure.
Good, because you're there to work. You're there to be a team. You're not there to promote yourself. That's the problem. It's gotten down to the promotion of self, not the art. You know, and well, that's what I say, anyways. But as we've established, I am a curmudgeon and a bitch, so I will obviously have opinions like this. All right. Anyways, we'll move on. What has been your worst injury from dancing?
Oh gosh, I was actually, when I was performing in Cats, I landed out of a jump wrong and hurt my lower back, my discs. I herniated 2 of my discs. Was out for a bit. Yeah, did not feel good for sure. But but with enough.
Did you finish the show?
No, I never did that. There was a term called early release, or ER, from your show, and I was like, I can't imagine ever getting through a show that you'd have to like leave midway unless you're really, really sick or something. And then a few months later, totally happened, and I was like, oh, I get it now. I get why. You know, that's like a thing. And yeah, I definitely had to leave.
Were you out for a long time?
It was like a couple months.
Wow.
Yeah, I did good physical therapy and do all of that.
Yeah, any damage to the spine is just, it's awful. All right, sorry to damper the situation. Have you been asked that before in an interview?
No, actually. Mm-mm.
Yes. All right, because I don't like to ask questions that other people have asked, and I was worried that you may have been asked that. Matt, I know you have a question that you wanted to ask.
I do. It sort of goes back to, you know, what we were talking about with, you know, pulling out your cell phone in the middle of the rehearsal room. Like back in the day when I was dancing, you know, back when I was young, back in the 1990s in New York, we would learn all of our choreography from the choreographers or from the dancers that had learned it from the original choreographer. And so, I mean, Chris, with your work, I mean, it's looking specifically at Newsies, like there is a pro shot sort of version of Newsies. Do you find that people borrow your choreography without permission? And where do you draw the line on, you know, on seeing somebody's choreography and then recreating it?
That's such a great question. And it's where, well, I'm actually I'm one of the co-chairs of the choreographer board in our union. And we're dealing with that. It's like an ongoing daily discussion, and which actually gets harder the more platforms are invented. Like we just had a big conversation about TikTok, about like people then like would post something from like since we're talking about like Newsies, for example, and they do it, but they don't give the choreographer credit, the original choreographer. So it's like we're trying to figure out ways of, not that we don't want people to do it, because that's what's so great is like me personally, at least, my feeling is like I love that people do it, and they would want to do it. I think it's a lovely compliment. But it's just the degree at which kind of like you're credited or not credited, and when and where and all that stuff. It's a constant conversation. But I've definitely, like, even when I've had to choreograph certain things, like when I did The King and I, there was with the Jerome Robbins estate that there were certain shows of his that you have to go through as lawyers to get permission to do. So like King and I was one of them where we had to get permission to do his choreography, but we did it at Lincoln Center and the stage was a thrust and not proscenium. So it had to change a bit because of just the nature of the dynamics of the theater. So we had to get a special kind of agreement with them. So it was like partly his choreography and partly mine, because I had to kind of take what he did and reshape it and choreograph other moments to like look like it was all in the same kind of style and vocabulary, which was I found a really great challenge and was exciting just to kind of share that with him. But yeah, it's kind of all over the map right now in terms of that. It's interesting. It's an ongoing conversation for sure.
You can get Thrash and Treasure anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And now, back to And the EGOT Goes To. So now we have Scenic Design of a Musical. We have 5 nominees. We have Beowulf Borat for New York, New York, Mimi Lien for Sweeney Todd, Michael Yergin and 59 Productions for Lerner and Lowe's Camelot. We have Scott Pass for both Shucked and Some Like It Hot. Now, we have all said New York, New York is going to win.
We have.
This, but
Because it is.
I was at the Shucked album release party this past weekend, and we were able to go on stage at Shucked. And the intricacies of that set, the different things that I noticed being right there and looking at it, that set is crazy. It looks like it's just a barn. That set is so cool.
That set is Hamilton if an earthquake hit it.
Yes, 100%. But I do think New York, New York is going to win. I just did want to mention that I was there and was looking at the set more closely, and it's really cool.
That's cool. I do, and I think Some Like It Hot also has some really great set pieces, but there's something about New York, New York that just makes the stage feel so full all of the time. Even when you have all of the space for the dancers. And I think that that's something that some shows struggle with, is that when you have these big group numbers, the stage starts to feel empty because you have to get all the set pieces out of there. But every single set in New York, New York just felt whole. And you have real painted backdrops. Like, you have to shout that out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 16 hand painted drops. Like, that's so cool.
Well, and I also think it's just like an ode to what Beowulf has done so much in the past few years. I mean, he only has one Tony win, which to me is crazy because I feel like every set that I've loved in the past like couple of years has been one of his shows. Like, he's done so much, and he's like 50, and I was like, he's done like 200. I think he's done like 20 something Broadway shows and like over 100 off Broadway shows. Like, it's wild. And so I think it's like, for me, I'm glad that he's getting props for this one, because I feel like so many of the shows he's done recently have been some of my favorite sets.
Yeah, and
even like, because he did like what was the Mike Barbigula set, like so simple, but like cool. that's wild. That's like, you know, like he's doing shows like one man shows all the way to New York, New York. Like, what a range.
Well, and also he last year released a book called Transforming Space Over Time about the relationship between scenic design and directors.
Oh, that's cool.
And that book is so good. I recommend reading it. It is so fascinating. But it's him talking to directors that he's worked with on shows, talking about their process together of talking about the set and designing the set. And then he also talks about parts of those shows. And then at the end, he talks to Stephen Sondheim about what Sondheim wanted in sets. It's a really great book. And it has like 10 directors or something that he talked to in it. It's really, really cool. And I love him and hope he wins this, because it is well deserved here.
And again, I don't know, this is a little bit of it, but I'm going to bring up Mike Barbigula again. I don't know if anyone saw the new one, But there's a moment in that show, which is one of the coolest things I have ever
Yes.
seen ever in my life on stage, ever. And it was one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. And I still to this day, I'm like, I don't know
I
how
saw
they did
it
it. Like, I
front
do not know how
row
they did it.
in the almond
It's the was
and
the
I was like,
craziest moment of my whole entire life. Like, I think about it I still think about it to this day all the time. And I'm like, I don't know how they did that. Like, I legitimately don't know.
I didn't see it live, but I've seen it on Netflix a lot of times. And every time I watch it, I forget about it.
Right. And then
And then it happens.
I saw my life flash before my eyes.
Yeah. Because you're like, it's gonna hit me and I'm gonna die. I also think you should have been rewarded for the piano lesson this year. So it's fine.
Yeah.
I think the piano lesson was one of my
Agreed.
favorite sets this year too. And it did not get a nomination. I think that's insane. So and the snow curtain, sorry, just multiple things from Ohio State Murders. The snow curtain was one of my favorite moments of the season too. I loved
Well,
the snow
and
curtain.
the flying bookshelfy things. That was cool
Yes,
too.
yeah.
also cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm very happy for him. I'm glad he's going to win. He should win. I just really, really like everything he does. And POTUS last year. I loved POTUS last year. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I forgot he did that.
Yeah.
That set was so great.
And he did Flying Over Sunset. Sorry. Which is, I did not love Flying Over Sunset, but I did
I
love that
never saw it.
production.
The
But
scenic
the
design,
scenic design, and
great.
that was stunning. There was a scene where they're like drowning in the ocean and they have this like wave of fog that I've like never seen anything like it. And that theater is giant and the entire stage was filled with thick fog, like beautiful.
There was more
Anyway,
fog
sorry,
than
I'll stop
audience
talking, but
members.
literally. It's one of those shows I do kind of regret not going back to because Sony Hebel said that they loved it at the end of the run. And I saw it like again, early preview and was like,
I saw it at the end of the run. I don't know about that.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
But also, like, he's done 4 shows this season
It's
Yeah,
wild.
he's the Kenny Leon of scenic
on
design.
Broadway.
I didn't realize he did his first show ever was Spelling Bee. That
Yeah.
is crazy. Sorry.
That's crazy.
First Broadway
That
show
was
ever.
great.
He did 3 shows last season. He's
next
just like
year,
one of those people that's
we'll get at
always
least
working.
5.
Yeah.
That's nuts to me.
Oh, he did Burnout Hamlet. I also love this set for that. Sorry. I'm looking.
But
at
also
these.
like he
And Come From
did
Away.
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's true. He did a book talk
that
when his
is
book
true.
came out, and it was James Lapine and Susan Stroman interviewing him.
Oh, that's cool.
And he was talking to Susan Stroman about the chairs in Scottsboro Boys. If you've ever seen anything from Scottsboro Boys, there's the whole set is really just these chairs, and they build different things out of these chairs. They talked about these chairs for like 20 minutes about like the intricacies of the chairs and like what she wanted from them, what he wanted. It was so interesting, and I just think he's so great, and I want him to get all of the
Anytime I think of
awards.
Beowulf for it, I just think of the commercial that he did for whatever tablet it was when he did the set for A Bronx Tale on the tablet, and it was just like, I'm Beowulf for it, and this is that's all I can think of. I don't even remember the
He
product.
hasn't booked anything for next season, has he?
Have they announced designers for all of the shows though?
No, but it was just
Maybe he's doing
sometimes they do.
Amadeus. Did Anthony say anything? For the set
Yeah, he
designing?
dropped the whole design team. But
He's like
not
me and Beowulf for it are doing Amadeus next year on Broadway. I can't wait.
He sells some of his set design models. That's kind of
Oh my gosh. How
I still need to go to the hotel that has all the set Broadway
Yeah,
sets.
so do I. And then our last category for this episode is we have direction of a musical. We have 5 nominees. We have Michael Arden for Parade, Lair de Bessonet for Into the Woods. Is it Lear or
Lear.
Lair? Okay, Lear de Bessonet for Into the Woods. Casey Nicola for Some Like It Hot. Jack O'Brien for Shucked. Jessica Stone for Kimberly Akimbo. Jack O'Brien is like 97 years old. I would also like to point out.
He when we went to the Shuck rehearsal, he like stood up to speak, and I was like, "Who is this old man?" And then I was like, "That is the director."
Sorry, he's 83, but that is
Oh.
still very old.
So different.
He was wearing like one of those like pashmina, like those long like pashmina scarves, and he was like wearing. And I was like, he was very fashionable. I was like, this man looks like he just walked off like the Paris runway. Anyway,
He directed his first Broadway show in 1969.
Wow. What was his first Broadway show?
Oh my god.
The first Broadway show that he was in a Broadway show in 1947.
Oh my gosh.
He was in a play.
1947. Wow.
But the first Broadway show he directed was Cock-a-Doodle Dandy.
So the same show. He just directed Shuck, but in the 60s.
Got it.
He also wrote the book and lyrics of an original musical that ran for 3 performances in 1972.
Amazing. I love the 70s.
I love it.
So many like,
Oh
you know,
my
one
goodness.
performance shows.
He's directed Porgy and Bess at least twice.
Just seems like the
Okay.
right person to do that.
Yeah.
I'd love an
He
old white man
directed
directing 40,
The
40
90s revival of Damn Yankees.
Oh yeah,
Okay, that
that was a
tracks.
good production.
Oh, also Hairspray.
Mhm.
Oh, I
The
love that.
original. Oh.
The original Hairspray. Well, there's only been Hairspray once.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
non-equity tour.
That's that's
He directed the out-of-town tryout of How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh, good.
okay.
Oh, guys, we forgot he directed Love Never Dies.
Classic.
Oh.
And now he's directing Shucked. But yeah, he is
Oh,
old.
he directed
has had a
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
crazy
which is
career.
maybe the worst
Yeah,
thing I've ever seen on Broadway. Anyway,
that's a
It
terrible
was
show.
horrible.
it was
It wasn't any
horrible.
better on tour. Just
I
so
heard
you
it got
know.
worse on tour.
Well, because you didn't have the set.
There was no set on Broadway either.
Oh, okay. So it was just a bad
Yeah.
show.
It was MS Paint projections.
so it was the Legally Blonde non-actor projection set, but
No,
less
Legally
funny.
Blonde had better projections. Legally Blonde was the Canva version, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was literally somebody opened up MS Paint and was like, color.
He's done a lot of Shaman, and so it's interesting that he did Shucked and not because Casey was like, this is mine. You
But also,
cannot
like,
have.
it's the definition of a Casey
Yeah.
Nicholas.
Oh
show.
no,
Yeah.
it is.
Speaking of Casey Nicholas.
He just did Catch If You Can and Hairspray.
Speaking of Casey, this is Casey Nicholas' award to lose, in my opinion.
Really? Not Michael Arden?
Interesting. I think it's Michael Arden.
I think
I
it's
do
Michael
not
Arden.
like the direction in Parade.
Oh, I
I
love it.
I
love the-
adore Michael Arden. He should be winning for A Christmas Carol and not this. And the fact that I think he was
Interesting.
snubbed for A Christmas Carol.
I also think he was snubbed for Christmas
Yes,
Carol.
so do I. I think Christmas Carol should have gotten everything.
It's wild to me that it did not get all the awards. I think it's a really interesting choice or thing this year, like for direction, because I really think there's like many different ways it could go. Obviously, and I think there's a case to be made for all of these shows in very specific and different ways, and and all of them are done so differently. Like you really have so many different choices here. Like even with Parade versus Into the Woods, which are both like city center productions, but like done entirely differently, and then you have Shucked and Kimberly, which are both like musical comedies, but also done entirely differently. So I'm just like, Some Like It Hot probably is the favorite. And I think because of the fact that it's like, you think of the demographics of Tony
So
voters.
here's my question though. Is the part we like of Some Like It Hot? Well, so much of what Casey Nicola, and I would even
It's the
include
choreography.
Yeah.
Susan Stroman as well there. Both of them are director choreographers. And so what of it is direction, what of it is choreography, or
Choreography.
is it just a whole thing? Which is why I think Casey Nicola will win choreography, but that this will go to Michael Arden.
I think if this doesn't go to Casey Nicola, which I could see, because the choreo is what we remember, I would like this to go to Jessica Stone more so than Michael Arden.
Ice skating.
I really like the direction in Parade. So I have Michael Arden as my winner, but I honestly wouldn't be mad with any of them to be like, I really like all 5.
This could
So,
also, however, be Parade's only win. And so
yes, that could be Parade's only win.
maybe Revival. I'm giving it Revival, but I could see it.
I'm giving it Revival and direction and nothing else, which feels crazy. No, there's probably like a design thing in there or something. Maybe
No.
not though, actually. So I don't. Yeah. I mean, I think it could be. I think Ben has a chance, but less and less by the day.
Ben
who
Platt, if you're
knows?
listening to this, I love you, but I hope you don't win this.
Yeah.
He listens.
All the I know all of the 2017 Tony's repeating memes, and I was like, I don't think it's quite the same because I do think he's I agree. I don't want him. I would prefer Jay to win. That being said, I do think him in this is very different than him in Dear Manson.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
I also think it's so fun. I have not heard a single thing about Christian Borle anywhere in the press about the Tony
Because
Awards.
even Christian Borle is like, I'm rooting for Jay. Even he said in an interview, I do not care. I'm happy to be nominated. I'm rooting for Jay. So he knows he's the 6th person in that category.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of And the EGOT Goes To. Join us later this week for our last episode before the Tony Awards, where we're discussing the big 4 categories: Best Musical, Best Play, Best Revival of a Musical, and Best Revival of a Play. We'll also be discussing 2 special Tony Awards for Lifetime Achievement in the Theater. Thanks so much,